Good morning and welcome to Complex PTSD and TV, and good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. My name's Linda. I'm your certified trauma recovery coach, and this week we have been doing the Smile Challenge. And the essence of the Smile Challenge is that while we're going through a really tough time, we're going to smile and feel good about, when we smile, we actually can feel good, and hold space within ourselves for both smiling and feeling good and for all the trauma or the raw emotions that are going around us internally as well. So that's where we started on Monday, and I had no idea it would evolve into this mini series. So if you're here for the first time, welcome and say g'day. And if you're here live, remember to do a hashtag live and hashtag replay. Now, yesterday I spoke to you about how I woke up and I hadn't opened my eyes, but I was aware I was feeling blah. And I went through the process of what do I need? So you can watch yesterday's video and understand that process so that you can put it in place for yourself. And I realized I had to be really super gentle with myself yesterday because I had done so many new things on the Monday that my brain literally needed time to process. So I was having a gentle day in theory, okay? And I made an agreement with myself not to do anything new. So to not overload my brain and go, right, I'm going to go learn a new program. I'm going to do this, So just to keep doing all that I knew what to do. Good morning, Susan. And then, so what I did, can I just say the day was a riot? And it just blew me away, the things that happened. And I was really glad that I listened to what my body needed, that I needed that gentleness and needed to not take on anything new because the day was a nightmare, okay? I had 3 different people upset with me and I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm supposed to be having this gentle day, and out of the woodwork came 3 different people, and I went, okay, we've got to manage this. Now, if you go through my Facebook page, or actually in the free library as well, you will see there's one about friendships. So there's an infographic about friendships and there's an infographic about trust. So you want to be able to work through the 3 different layers, and when people are upset, you want to know where they are, especially on your friends' categories, so that you know how to manage dealing with people who are upset with you, and how much you not effort as in effort required, but just how much you're going to let them in, what's going to happen for you, and where do you need to put things aside. So one of the main ones was, and I can talk about this because Nick and I are really open about everything. Good morning, Susan. Susan, meet Susan. Okay, so Nick and I are very open and honest about everything, and yesterday morning, for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, I ticked him off, and then because I ticked him off, I got incredibly frustrated, and I went, what is it that I can't do right? So the best thing to do in the heat of the moment is not participate in the heat of the moment. Okay, so I got up and left, and it's called phone a friend. So phone your bestie and say, listen, I just need to have a whinge. This is happening. I don't know why. I'm really upset. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, and it's not about, my best friends know me, so it's not about them having to solve a problem. It's just about them listening, because when we get to have that whinge, we also get to process in our own minds, step by step, what's happening for us. Does that make sense? So if we hold it all in tight, which is what we are known, which is a habit developed in childhood because there's so many reasons why, but let's just go because for generations, nobody's ever talked about emotions, okay? If we hold it all inside, then it's like we're this nuclear bomb waiting to go off, and that's pointless. It doesn't build deeper relationships, and that's what we want for our life with the people that are closest to us. We want to build those deeper relationships. So I didn't know what to do or say. I had appointments, clients, and I got on and did my appointments and clients, and I went, I don't know where to go from here because I don't understand why I've ticked this person off, well, Nick, off. So then I went out to acupuncture and came back, and I had, along the way I had a couple of other people message me, and I just went, you know what? This day for a gentle day is just going from bad to worse, okay? So I went, all right. Came home from acupuncture and Nick said to me, what's wrong? I said, it's just like everything's imploding and exploding around me as well. And he said, look, you need to sit down and talk. And look, for the love of all things, if there's one thing you do in your entire life is when you're raising your kids, teach them to talk about what's happening for them, to identify their emotions and what's happening, because we're the first generation doing this, okay? So what happens is they become adults, and when they're adults, so not when they're younger, when they're adults, they then start coming to you and saying, you need to talk about this. And it was not something that I'd ever thought about, okay? So I never ever consciously thought when my kids grow up, they're going to come to me and say, you need to talk about this too, because that's what I taught them. We haven't had somebody else do that for us, so we don't know. So we want to have that genuine interaction with our kids as they're growing up. So I sat down and I said to him, well, this happened and I don't know why you're upset with me, but I'm at a loss. And we're emotional. When we're having these discussions, we're emotional. And then I went through what happened with a couple of other people with him. I said, I'm just not getting there. So what happened was he was then able to say to me, well, this is why I was ticked off. I was being petty, and this is what he said to me. And I'm like, really? That's what you were doing? And through this process of emotional honesty, we get to learn about each other. And then I said to him, well, if you're being petty, so next time I should say to you, stop being petty. And he goes, yeah, you should. And I went, oh, okay. He says, Mum, you need to speak up. And I went, oh, okay. So it's actually a learning process as well. Okay. So it's not, oh, I know you, you know me. And let's face it, I raised him. It's a case of, as we go on and grow through these relationships, we learn more and more about each other, and we modify behaviours because we love each other. And then I said, okay, so why are you petty? Why? What happened? And he said, well, you threw me out of whack because you didn't message me when you're doing a client, when you're doing a Facebook Live. He said, and I didn't know these things were happening, and I got breakfast late and blah, blah, blah. He went through openly and honestly what happened for him and what was driving his emotions. And at that point I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I didn't realise that it would have this impact. So it's an emotional connection, working it through together, and then being able to resolve it. And so then I was able to say, I'm really sorry, and I will always message you when these things are happening and make sure that we're communicating as well. And he apologised to me for treating me in the manner that he did, okay? And this is caring for each other. Now, as you know, all week we've had an infographic. So I came home from gym this morning, excuse me, and I did us up an infographic, okay? Now, I've just got to find, I've got a couple on my desktop at the moment. Here we go. So this is already in the free library, okay? how to resolve arguments, disagreements, etc. Now, the way to use this infographic is, well, first of all, to read what's going on, but the do's and don'ts. So when there's a disagreement, and this is with someone close to us, we're not talking about somebody who doesn't know us, we're talking about someone where we value keeping our relationship, okay? We value that there's not a right or wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong, you're in, I'm out. This is, we're going to talk about our emotions. It's not about logic. We start with the emotions so that we can get to what's happened for me, and then we move into the circumstances around what was driving the emotions. If you start off at the point of being logical and, black and white and up and down, then you're telling somebody that you don't care how they feel. All right? So when you go black and white, this is it, you are literally giving a non-verbal message and saying, I don't care how you feel, this is how it is. And if that's not the most unkindest thing ever, I don't know what is. We are emotional creatures as well. We can't ignore one side and then expect just to resolve things logically. It won't happen. We've got to have both things. We've got to care enough about each other that we're going to have the tough conversations. Now, one of the hardest things that we ever do is come to an understanding when people don't want to have the hard conversations and aren't willing to learn how. Now, this is something that we learn. It's not something innate. It's not something that we've had for generations. It's not something that's handed down to us. And with emotional abuse and neglect rating high up there with the adverse childhood experiences, so the ACEs, then this is something that we all need to participate in, and we all need to be part of the solution, not the continuing generational problem of not talking about how we feel and being honest about it. And it does get messy and it does get hard, but eventually we are able to say, look, this is who I am, and I would never intentionally set up to hurt you, but obviously I have. So I want us to be able to have a two-way conversation. Now, when you download this infographic, you can keep it on your phone. You can take it with you to your therapist and be honest and say, or trauma coach, either, or both. Some people have both. And you want to be able to say, look, I'm really struggling with this part of how to resolve arguments. All right. So I'm giving an overview today, but you need to be able to say, right, this is the part I'm struggling with. This is the part I want structure and strategies for. And this means a lot to me that I'm able to do this and say, I don't want to keep this behavior ongoing, all right? I won't read it all out to you because it's involved, all right? What I will say is it's there in the free library, and if relationships matter to you, and they should, then you have to be willing to say, I want to learn. All right. So jump in, grab it, and start learning, because when we've come from generations of trauma, we don't know how to do this. All right. We haven't been taught, we haven't had it modeled. And especially for those of us who've come from generations of family who divorce, our brain doesn't have a roadmap yet of how we can go about resolving conflicts. We don't. And if we can't admit that, then we're never ever going to be able to have a healthy relationship, a healthy functioning relationship. Now, I've been divorced twice. That doesn't mean I don't know how to have a healthy functioning relationship. It means I didn't know how to choose people who also wanted to do the hard yards and wanted to have the tough conversations. And both people for me didn't want to have the hard conversations. And that's their choice. They were an adult, that's their choice. And sometimes the hardest thing we have to do is say, I have to honour their choice not to do this, and I have to keep moving on. And it's the hardest decision we ever make, but I can assure you, for my children who are now adults, they now understand the big impact of what I had to do, and they thank me because they experience how much deeper and closer our relationships are, because I said, we're in this together, we work it out together, and we communicate. And in that communication is where there is change, and we will always need this communication. So for me, in growing up, there was no communication. You were, what's the word? Humiliated if you tried to communicate emotions. When I was growing up, you were basically, yeah, humiliated. Well, actually, as I've said before, they called me Elizabeth Taylor. She was a famous actress at the time. So basically, because I wanted to communicate emotions, then I'm just an actress, rather than the parents saying, oh, maybe there's something we need to go and do and learn and sit down and have a conversation about. No, just didn't happen. But that's no excuse for us not picking up and saying, okay, well, it didn't happen for me, so let's make it happen in my life. And the other side of this too is we have to be willing to sit down and say, okay, somewhere in all of this, I've ticked someone off, and I need to be able to say either, I don't understand, or please help me understand more. We need to have a willingness inside ourselves that we want to go through the process as well. And it is messy, okay? It's messy and it's hard and it's raw, and look, there can be tears, but at the end of the day, when we're in these closer relationships, we want to know that the people that we're in them with, we keep turning towards each other and being willing to keep resolving them as we grow through our journey as well. It's hard to relay trauma to somebody if they haven't experienced it, but we can't expect them to understand fully what happened. What we can ask for is just some empathy and compassion that, I'm working through this. I'm a work in progress. I'm a continual work in progress. And I keep looking for the next next step. What's the next solution? What is it? Ask questions. What is it that I need to learn today? Okay, so that I can take my one next step. Oh, I'm sitting here, it's absolutely freezing for me this morning. Okay, so jump in there, take the infographic to specialist or your trauma coach, and start working on how to have these healthy relationships. Oh, that's what I want to tell you. Children's brains learn through experience, okay? We didn't have the experiences mapped into our brain, our neural network, okay, of healthy relationships, healthy communication. We don't have that roadmap, so this is the work we're doing to develop a roadmap that is healthy. So the other side of yesterday for me was when people said things that weren't true, I was able to say, look, I'm sorry, that's just not true. That's not what's happening. And this morning smile story, I woke up, and as I woke up, before my eyes opened, if you haven't heard of the Queen song, Don't Stop Me Now, go and listen to it. Hi Charlotte, and I know Charlotte, you will know it. So all morning, that Queen song has been running through my head. Don't stop me now. I'm having a good time, on and on. And I went, that's great. That means that I managed to get through yesterday and wake up today with a smile. Have the most gorgeous day. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I will respond. And also remember to like, share and subscribe for all the people around this globe who still don't have a voice because of trauma, okay? It's it's a massive problem that we all participate in and become part of the solution as well. Love you all heaps, and I guess we're doing day 4 tomorrow. All right, I'll see you sometime tomorrow morning. Bye for now.